Hi guys! I have been absent from my YouTube channel for a few weeks now, which I hate. I have not done that for a long time. But basically I went on holiday, which as you can see from the title of this video, or is it down underneath? I forget, but the title of this video you will know that I was off on holiday. And I didn't have anything filmed for while I was away, and then when I got back I then got a cold, which I'm still kind of recovering from, so I do apologise if my voice sounds a bit croaky. And also it's winter now, and so it's getting dark very early, so I have limited time to film. However, I have now bought a light which should make things a little bit easier. I'm going to try filming with the light this week, so we'll see how that goes. Anyway, today's video is very exciting because it is the first instalment of my New York vlog. If you followed my channel for a while, you may have seen my last series of New York vlogs when we went on holiday to New York before. If you haven't, then I will link a playlist in the description box down below that you can find them on. But we had such an incredible time then that we decided that we really wanted to go back and experience it at a different time of year. And so we booked up very spontaneously. We managed to get a really good deal, and Roisin and I jetted off on the 24th of October this year. Now, just as a sort of disclaimer to begin with on this vlog, if you watched my last vlog, I was really good at vlogging while I was away. I vlogged really consistently every day. I got lots of footage from every day. Didn't do that this time. We both slacked off a bit, which, to be honest, I kind of enjoyed, because although I really love editing these vlogs and having them to look back on, it was quite nice to just take things at a little bit more kind of chilled out pace. We didn't do quite as much of the touristy stuff this time because we'd done a lot of it the time before, so we kind of just wandered a bit more and we took things a little bit more leisurely, and I didn't really feel the need to kind of have the camera out quite as much, which means that these vlogs will maybe be a slightly different format to how they were last time, but hopefully you will still enjoy them. Day one, admittedly, we didn't do a lot of vlogging because what ended up happening was we didn't actually have a huge amount of time in the city. On Monday the 24th of October, I headed off to the airport bright and early to meet Roisin at 6 o'clock in the morning to check in for our flight to New York. Unlike last time, it wasn't a direct flight. We were actually going on a flight from Glasgow to Dublin, and then when we were at Dublin we were going to go through customs at that point and then fly from Dublin to New York. Much like last time, we had breakfast in the airport and we had about an hour to just sit and relax and chill out before our flight. Now on to the slightly glitchy parts of the day. We got to the boarding gate and they announced that the flight had been overbooked, so they were looking to kind of shift people onto different flights. Obviously we were transferring onto a different flight at Dublin within a very short turnaround time, so we weren't going to be doing that. But it did mean that the flight was delayed by about 15 minutes. Now, our stopover in Dublin was an hour and a half supposed to be, which was still quite a tight turnaround, but we had thought it would be totally fine. But by delaying the flight takeoff by about 15 minutes, it did mean that it had already kind of cut into the time that we were going to have when we got to Dublin. Now, if it had been a case of getting to Dublin, going through security and, going on to our other flight, it wouldn't have been an issue. However, as I mentioned, we were going through customs and doing passport control and all that, that we did at New York last time. We were doing in Dublin this time, which we thought was great because it meant that we didn't have to do that on the US end of the flight, and we could just get straight off the plane at JFK and get straight into the city. This was slightly problematic. We got through the passport control bit where you scan your passport, that was all fine. Got to the queues to go through the actual security customs bit where you sort of talk to the person about why you're going to America and is it a business trip or a holiday and whatever. And Roisin and I got put into separate queues, so she was put in one queue, I was put in another. Roisin's queue flew in, she was out and through into the next part of the airport very quickly. I, however, was stuck in this queue until 20 minutes before our flight was going to take off. Not just boarding, when our flight was taking off. I was getting into a bit of a panic. I wanted to try and speak to someone, but there was no one nearby and I couldn't leave the queue because it was a security area, and I was starting to get quite frightened. So eventually, it was about 20 minutes before the flight took off, a woman came round saying, anyone on this flight, this Aer Lingus flight, we're flying with Aer Lingus this time, come to the front of the queue. So thankfully got there, got through, and we bolted to the other side of the airport where our boarding gate was to get ourselves onto the plane. So by the time we got onto the plane, we had highlighted how incredibly unfit we both were because we were both ready to pass out. But we were on the plane, we were on our way, we settled down to watch some films and hopefully try and get some sleep, which of course is pointless for me because I never sleep on planes, and make our way to New York. We arrived at JFK at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, got off the plane, picked up our bags, that all went perfectly smoothly. Got to the little desk where we were getting our transfer organised from, that had all been booked in advance. and we were told that it would be about half an hour. Glitch number 2, the person who was supposed to pick us up apparently turned up at the airport, did a quick walk around, didn't speak to anybody, didn't shout out our names, didn't ask if we were there, and left without picking us up, so we were stuck there until after 3 o'clock. They apologised profusely, the company was very, very nice, the woman at the desk was very apologetic, she knew we hadn't moved or gone anywhere, so it wasn't our fault. So she apologised a lot, but it then meant that we were put onto the next transfer, which was really, really busy. The driver had to stop at every terminal at JFK to pick up various people. And so by the time we actually arrived in the city, between that and then getting caught in some traffic, getting actually into the city, it was about 5 o'clock. Last time we had arrived at about 3, so we'd had an extra couple of hours in the city in the afternoon to do some exploring, so that was a bit of a shame, but it's one of these things, there's nothing that you can do, and once we were there, and we just wanted to try and forget about that. This time we were staying in a hotel on 51st in Lexington. The hotel is called Pod 51. We booked into there basically because it is one of these kind of like trendy budget hotels that everyone is now seems to be raving about. The reviews online were all very, very, very good, but it is tiny. The rooms are like little cupboards. I didn't take any footage the first couple of days, but I did take footage on the last day, so if you want to see what the room looked like, stay tuned for the vlog for day 6, must have been day 6, and you'll be able to see what it looked like then. The reason that we booked into here was because we could have 6 days, so like 5 nights, 6 days in the city for the same price as we would have had like 5 days in another hotel, and so we figured like it was worth having the tiny room, and it was a shared bathroom as well, which I wasn't too keen on the idea of to begin with, but I have stayed in hostels before. When I was in Australia I stayed in hostels, so I was kind of prepared for what it was going to be like. And I have to say that generally speaking, I thought the shared bathroom was fine. They were always very clean and I didn't have any issues with them. So yeah, the hotel was lovely. It was tiny, as I say, but perfect for what we needed it for, which was sleeping and showering. So now for the fun parts. That was all the sort of travel issue parts. After we got ourselves checked into the hotel and we unpacked a bit, we freshened ourselves up and we headed on out to go and get some dinner at Times Square. I can't quite explain how it felt to be back there, especially as quickly, because I'd never imagined when I was there in February that I was going to be back within the year. It just didn't ever occur to me that it would be. And it's funny because it wasn't that long, but walking along those streets, so it was dark by the time that we headed out again, and so obviously getting to Times Square and everything's all lit up, and I don't know how to explain how much I love being there, and how much walking along those streets just gives you this feeling that, I don't know, it just feels sort of magical. I know that that sounds silly, and I know that for people who live in New York that probably just sounds ridiculous, but I think when you love somewhere so much and you've seen so much of it on TV and it's captured your imagination in that way, and then you've been there once before and had that buzz of experiencing the city for the first time, there's something really lovely about going back, and it's still new, and there's still so much to explore and so much to see, but you feel slightly more at home because you've been before, and it just was lovely. We walked along past the Rockefeller Centre and looked at the ice rink. There were beautiful fairy lights everywhere. Everything felt, I don't know, just because it's in the sort of lead up to Christmas, I know it's the end of October, but it sort of felt festive to me, something about just being at the Rockefeller when it's coming up for Christmas time and everything looks so beautiful and all decked out in pretty lights. It was lovely. So that night we'd thought about a couple of places to try for dinner, but once we got to Times Square we were starving and we just really wanted to get something quickly. So we headed to Virgil's Barbecue, which is a barbecue place just off Times Square. It's at 152 West 44th Street, so it's just off Times Square. And we went there. It is one of these places where if you're a vegetarian, I would not go near it with a barge pole. It is one of these places where it's very much that like American, lots of meat style place, but we really enjoyed it. I can't explain how huge the portions were. The filming, when Roisin started filming her, she was like, this is shrinking it on my camera, it doesn't look right. I thought, I'm sure it's not that bad, and when I lifted up mine, like, that is a pulled pork burger and chips, and it was delicious, but it looks like an average size portion. It really wasn't. The amount of meat on that plate was nuts. When we were walking up towards the restaurant, we actually bumped into someone who's handing out discount cards, and they'd handed out, now I can't remember if it was $10 or 10%. I think it was a 10% off your bill card for Virgil's, so it meant that when we went there we actually got a little discount off our bill, so that was really good. And that's a tip that I would recommend if you are walking past people. Obviously Times Square is a very busy place. It can feel a bit overwhelming, and when there's people handing out leaflets here, there and everywhere, it can be very tempting to just like close yourself off from them and be like, no, I don't want to have to take a million pieces of paper. However, sometimes they are handing out like discount codes for theatre shows or discount codes for restaurants, so do keep an eye out because those little things can be handy. Especially at a time like this when the exchange rate is so appalling that you're basically calling $1 a pound, like at this point. No, I mean not quite, but it's almost there. So any little discounts you can get here or there will be helpful. So after we had our dinner, we headed out into Times Square. We wandered around Sephora. We had just a wander around the street. We just sort of immersed ourselves once again in that beautiful, bright, completely hectic place that is Times Square. I don't know if there's anywhere else I've ever been in my life that feels as there's like a buzz in Times Square, and I can't imagine that there's any time that it doesn't feel that way. Even really late at night, there's this sort of electricity in it that just feels, I think it's just because there's so many people always there. But what also I find, because I found this the last time and I found it again this time, that's really odd, is that it can be 11 o'clock at night and pitch black, like it's dark, and it feels like daylight. It feels like the middle of the day because there's so much light everywhere in Times Square. Like the billboards are so massive and there's so many bright lights that if you don't look up, if you just look ahead, it's like it's the middle of the day. So that's something that I find kind of surreal. I know that it's the sort of cliched part of New York, but I just do think there's something really spectacular about it. So that night we headed back to our hotel to get some much needed sleep. We were in bunk beds because, as I say, the room was tiny, and so it was like kind of maintaining as much space as possible. So it was bunk beds. So Roisin was in the bottom, I was in the top. But another great thing about this place that I would say massive props for is that it has plug sockets everywhere. It's little like kind of indents in the wall in the upper bunk bed and in the lower bunk bed that had 2 plug sockets in it, so you could charge your phone or your camera or whatever while you were sleeping. So that was great. I would definitely recommend it for that because that's something that's really, really useful.